Welcome back to Firelink Shrine. This is Daz and we're playing Dark Souls 3. Before we do what we need to do today, I'm going to fulfill the promise I made in the last video and go get that darn ring of sacrifice. Before we go though, we have quite the bounty of souls, so let's do a couple things here first.
Asking us to talk.
Crestfallen Hawkwood has nothing new to say.
Well, 'tis good to me.
Something I forgot to do last time. We reinforced our Estus shard, so now we have more Estus flasks to use, which is always helpful. I'm also going to upgrade my trusty hand axe while I'm here.
Pretty me, I don't.
And say hello to Grey Rat.
Back. And in one piece. Well, now it's time I do my part. Whatever trinket you need, speak up. Just don't ask me where I got them. Do me a favor and don't forget our promise. Give this ring to old Loretta at the base of the high wall. A nuisance, I know, but it will help me tie up some loose ends.
This odd graphical glitch makes it look like Cinderella is dancing to the beat of Andre's hammer. While that's going on, let's buy a few things from Grey Rat. He has a different stock than the Handmaiden, and some useful things for sale, such as the mace. The mace is like the club, but more so. It's got a better attack pattern and a bit more damage. I believe its strength scaling is a little bit worse, though.
And stay safe. Oh, this place is a bore. What good is thievery if you've nowhere to go?
As befitting of a thief, Grey Rat seems nervous about just about everything.
Welcome home, speak. Very well, then take it.
The rest of these souls will go towards leveling up. I'm not going to go crazy, though. I want a couple left over for later.
Manifestations elucidated by
We're still at the point in the game where we can get quite a few level ups for not a whole lot of investment, so this should do for now.
Farewell, Ashen One. May the flames guide thee.
At the very beginning of the game, it's not really wise to pump your stats into one thing in particular. You want a fairly even spread so you can do most things in a basic capacity. Then once you've established a firm baseline, you can start specializing. Or not, if you don't feel like it. Traveling back to Vort's bonfire, we have the clearest shot to where we need to go. I'll test drive the mace for a little bit, see how it does for us. Of course, against these shield hollows, we're not going to be doing much regular attacking anyway, since the kick is so effective. Another steel soldier helm, but it's not like we can wear two of them at the same time, so that might just get sold. Due to the fact that the archers are shooting flaming arrows from their crossbows, they do a little bit of penetration damage even if they're blocked with a shield. It's a little annoying, but it's very moderate. And oddly enough, despite the fact that they shoot flaming bolts, we only get standard ones from the drop. At any rate, this is where the Ring of Sacrifice and a soul pickup are. You need to do a bit of jumping to get it, but it's not particularly difficult. And it's good to get some practice in while the stakes are fairly low. Of course, now we need to get out of here. And we may have accidentally made the Winged Knight angry. Fortunately, one of the most powerful strategies in all of Dark Souls is simply run away. Most enemies will get bored after a while and go back to where they started. At any rate, with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, we can continue on to where we left off, at the face of the high wall. Base of the high wall. The face of the high wall would be very difficult to traverse. The Undead settlement is the second major area of the game, and there's a very large person over there shooting arrows. Oddly enough, you can see the bowstring being pulled back, but you can't actually see the arrows themselves, so we sort of have to take it on faith that that's what he's shooting. At any rate, we'll deal with that when we get to it. Nothing we can do from here unless we had a similarly huge bow. And, you know, it's a little premature to start shooting. These folks have gone pretty hollow indeed if they can't figure out how to operate the lever to open up the portcullis. But perhaps it's for the better. The folks on the other side don't seem too keen on letting them in. It's best to try and deal with these dogs while they're distracted with the hollows, otherwise there's 3 of them and that can overwhelm you pretty quickly. It's a good thing the combustion doesn't cost a lot, because I miss it a lot. The hitbox is deceptively small. And it's sort of hard to get your bearings because of the way the camera is situated. It's like with a projectile attack, you can sort of see where it goes. But the body is actually blocking most of the combustion animation. So at this point, I decided to just switch to a shield. It's a lot easier that way. They just sort of bounce off. Unfortunately, the mace is another one of those weapons that make the dogs go flying when you hit them once. They were guarding an alluring skull, or perhaps they were trying to eat it. An alluring skull is a special item that attracts enemies to the point where you throw it.
Please, grant me death. Undo my shackles. Oh, then it's true. A champion of Ash as I live and breathe. To be in your presence is a great honor. I am Yoel of Londor, a pilgrim, as you can see, only somehow I failed to die as was ordained. Well, perhaps my calling lies elsewhere. Say, champion of Ash, how does the idea of taking me into your service strike you? I was once a sorcerer. Surely I can be of use. Oh, I am honored, truly. I should be dead, yet you have granted me purpose anew. I, Yoel of Londor, do solemnly swear myself to you.
Well, that might be a little bit melodramatic, but we've made a new friend. Yoel of Londor is a pilgrim, and unique among pilgrims, he still seems to be among the living, as opposed to all of his colleagues here on the bridge. Like Greyrat, Yoel has some useful things to sell us and do for us once he gets back to Firelink, but for now we should press on. We still have our wits about us, so this insidious gate won't stop us for long. This is a new type of enemy, the Worker Hollow. They're honestly a good deal easier to deal with than the soldiers for the most part, but they do have the advantage of numbers. Seems like we might be able to meet that giant sooner or later. The Worker Hollows do have enough stamina to withstand one fireball, which puts them a step above some of the other enemies on the high wall. But they attack with farm implements, and they aren't particularly well armored, so they're not too difficult to deal with. Switching back to the hand axe. Better for crowd control. It's faster and has a wider swing arc. Well, it might seem like you could just pick this item up off of the hanging corpse. You actually have to knock it down first. This is another new enemy. The Undead Thrall. These little guys are a good deal more dangerous than the Worker Hollows. They're faster, they move erratically. They're quite cagey, too. They're very fond of setting ambushes for you. Had we not gone and faced him in that upper alcove, if we had gone down the stairs, he would have dropped on our heads. They're much easier to deal with if you know that they're coming, so pay attention to your surroundings if you can. Another reward for some more grisly work. Charcoal pine bundles and other such bundles are unique items. They act like resins, but they apply much faster but last for much shorter durations. So essentially, you can almost apply one during a combo without even really breaking your stride. It's good for an extra burst of damage when you have a difficult enemy that doesn't leave themselves open in an advantageous spot. But for general purpose, just enchanting the weapon on your own or using a resin will usually do better for you. This is what I meant by the advantage of numbers, and you know somebody who might be interested in that bone. Charging into this pack of workers would be very ill-advised, so instead, let's stick to the back and try and take them out before all of them notice us. The barrels that they're standing next to, as you can see, are flammable. That explosion was a little less impressive than I was hoping for, but beggars can't be choosers. And it was still technically a save of FP. That was only one fireball when it would have taken two. The larger figure in the center there is yet another new enemy, and a very dangerous one at that. This is the Evangelist. They have a wide variety of dangerous attacks, and quite a lot of stamina. Probably their most dangerous is simply swinging around their spiked maces. In addition to having huge range, attacking fairly quickly and doing a lot of damage, it also inflicts bleeding. If enough of that builds up, we'll take another burst of damage when the bar fills. At close range, they sometimes try this immolation grab attack, which is, at this point, almost certain death. At a range, they use the Gnawing Miracle, which summons this gross swarm of insects to attack you. That also inflicts a good chunk of bleed, so you need to be very careful when facing Evangelists or you'll get bled to death. Worker Hollows sometimes drop rubbish, which is actually completely useless. You can't even trade it. Much more useful are those Estus shards. We can turn those in with Andre when we get back. If I remember, which I won't. Even after all the workers that we've killed, they're still coming out of the woodwork, so simply charging in is not a good plan. There are several ways to go from this sort of central plaza, and we'll take probably the path less traveled. There's a couple of useful articles across this bridge. When fighting multiple enemies, you want to do your best to try and get them to sync up their attacks so that they're vulnerable at the same time. If their attacks are staggered, then you might be in trouble. They can cover each other that way. Worker Hollows are also very weak. Simply rolling into them will stagger them most of the time. Useful to know if you get surrounded. This thrall is wielding a flamberge, a unique greatsword that inflicts bleeding. In fact, this is the only place in the game you can get a flamberge from these flamberge-wielding enemies. It's actually a pretty darn good sword, if you're willing to farm for it. The Caduceus round shield is actually the one that we started out with. Once again, the path sort of splits here. There's a secret path back behind us, but there's something I want to do here first. It's a bit of a drop, and it's not particularly safe, but there's a good reason to come down here. Some workers up above will throw fire bombs at you while you deal with the enemies here, so be quick about it. Our reward for this off-the-beaten-path exploration is a bonfire. I'm not going to rest at it just yet. We're still in okay shape to continue exploring. But by simply lighting a bonfire, you get basically a checkpoint. If you die at any point, you'll go back to the last one that you lit or rested at. This way, we can keep exploring and not have to deal with any respawning enemies. Atop these buildings are the culprits of the firebomb attacks. They're clothed in red robes, so you can sort of single them out. They're a bit weaker than their cousins in the black robes. Another hand axe, should we want one, and a friend.
Aha, unkindled, are we? Welcome to my abode. I am Cornyx, an old pyromancer. A crow in his cage, as you see now. But here we are, an encounter for the ages. I hear the unkindled make for fine vessels. You've been dabbling in pyromancies, it seems. Well then, care to learn some pyromancies from this old man? Ah, most wise. A chance encounter should not be squandered. To reiterate, I am Cornyx of the Great Swamp. The pleasure is mine.
I sort of like the idea that Cornyx could have just gotten out of there whenever he wanted, but he was just having a perfectly fine time chilling in the cage. I suppose we might have slipped him a homeward bone or something. Either way, Cornyx will appear in Firelink Shrine, along with the rest of the NPCs that we send home that way. More pressing matters. This large fellow, I'm not sure if he has an official name at this point, but he's big, he's mean, and he's got a big pot full of guts. He's not quite as dangerous as an evangelist, but he is still not anything that you want to take lightly. The large wooden planks strapped to their backs makes them immune from backstabs, which otherwise would make a fairly easy method of dealing with them because they're fairly slow to turn around. You can see another one down there who's wielding actually a great machete. We also pick up the fire clutch ring, which is something we want to equip right away. The fire clutch ring will boost fire damage in exchange for making us a little bit more vulnerable to incoming damage. If I play well, which is always the question, isn't it? It shouldn't be any problem, and it will benefit our fireballs quite a lot. If you're not playing as a Pyromancer starting class, then Cornyx will be the one to give you a Pyromancy Flame when you talk to him back in Firelink. He will also not make notice of the fact that you've been dabbling in Pyromancy because you haven't. This area is a bit of a gauntlet. There's lots of thralls who use ranged attacks here from their little blow darts. Fortunately, the blow darts don't inflict any kind of poison or anything like that, and they can be blocked easily with a shield. But there's a lot of them, and they come from a lot of different directions. They are, by and large, a little too fast to deal with just fireballs. A melee weapon is much preferable. Not quite enough distance for a plunging attack, but we still jumped on his head, so that's a moral victory. They game us fond of doing this in some places. They'll put garbage items like fading souls, which only give you 50 souls upon use, and use them to bait traps. If you had simply gone for that willy-nilly instead of looking at your surroundings, you'd probably get mobbed by the thralls and die. All for 50 souls, so not really worth it. The plank shield is the starting shield of the deprived.
Another Nana disappeared. The grunting carries a cage. He ever has his cage. And Nana's never coming back. So come into the cage and become Nana's shade. Another Nana disappeared. So come into the cage.
This largely inexplicable conglomeration of people seem to do nothing but give a very vague hint as to the entrance to a secret area. And I suppose we can now call the large undead grandsons if we want to. They carry cages, at least. This particular grandson is actually completely non-hostile. He will simply go about his business and leave you alone. Before we do anything with him, there is an item up here. Now, I believe what is intended by the game is that you hit the hanging corpse and it sort of goes flying off the edge, so you have to get it later. However, if you're careful, very careful, and maneuver yourself as such that you can get behind the corpse, you can whiff your shot entirely and have to try again. Even getting up onto the rocks is a little bit difficult. It doesn't really seem like it was all that intended to do, but it actually does save some time. Just sort of have to insinuate yourself up through that crack. And now that I'm two-handing, I shouldn't... There we go. Oh god. Okay, we got it. No problem. Not quite the way I wanted that to go, but we got the ring. The Flame Stoneplate ring is sort of the opposite of the Fire Clutch ring. It increases fire defense, though fortunately it doesn't do anything to your offensive capabilities. Very useful. By interacting with that grandson, we make a very sketchy decision and just hop into the cage, like the rhyming hollows indicated. And in doing so, we enter a secret area, the Pit of Hollows. Seems that we're not alone among the living. But first, the War God wooden shield. Let's say hello.
Well, what's up? This pit is for hollows, not for the likes of you sane folk. Or perhaps you are a hollow, posing as otherwise?
Indeed.
Yes, yes, then we are just fine. It's important to know who you are. But we'll all be mad soon enough. And should you be undead, well, all the more so. Beware, the shackles of the gods are fragile. You might need this. Etch it on your heart if you feel your sanity slipping. Come here to pile up your victims, for that will form your anchor. You'll see when you go mad. They'll be your family. You'll go mad one day, but not today. Take my advice. Use this bone and leave this place. This pit is for hollows, and for the occasional madman fond of piling up victims. You've better things to do, I'd hope. This pit is for hollows. You've...
I think, when all is said and done, we do have better things to do. Either way, we've unlocked the Mound Maker's Covenant. This turns you into a purple mad spirit. If you are summoned into another world via sign, or if you invade, then you appear as a mad spirit that can attack both enemies and the host.
Ooh, yet to give in, eh? Good. The Firekeeper must be twitching with delight. But what do you really know about these Lords of Cinder, these supposed legends? Let's take Aldrich for one, a right and proper cleric, only he developed a habit of devouring men. He ate so many that he bloated like a drowned pig, then softened into sludge. So they stuck him in the Cathedral of the Deep, and they made him a Lord of Cinder, not for virtue, but for might. Such as a lord, I suppose. But here I ask, do we have a sodding chance? At the foot of Lothric Castle, an old path still runs below the tower in the Undead settlement. It was used to transport sacrifices to the Cathedral of the Deep. You should see where it leads, if you've the stones for it.
Not sure that we do, to be honest. Hawkwood finally had something new to say, so I thought I'd give him a talk. It was somewhat grim, but elucidating. Cornyx sets up shop down here.
Ah, there you are, unkindled one. I wish to express my gratitude for trusting a lowly pyromancer and allowing me to gaze upon this majestic flame. As promised, I will impart pyromancies to you.
Now Cornyx is where it's at. He sells what we're wearing, actually. And he is also the only character in the game that is capable of upgrading the pyro
To
flame.
learn pyromancies, you must vow to become my pupil. I know, but such is the way of the world. Respect your elders and so on. And pyromancy, of course, is no exception. Oh, we'll need a pyromancy tome to learn more advanced pyromancies. Though unorthodox, that would be the most expedient way to make progress. If this were the Great Swamp, and you had the luxury of time, we could have trained you the hard way. To learn pyromancy...
In addition to reinforcement, he also sells some new spells, such as Fire Surge, Great Combustion, and Flash Sweat. We're going to go with the first two. Flash Sweat is useful, but not for a while yet. It increases fire resistance. And since it is pretty much our primary weapon at this point, let's go ahead and reinforce our flame a little bit too.
Do not be gone. What is a teacher without a pupil?
I suppose we should also give Greyrat the bad news when we get a chance. But first, let's go say hi to Yoel. He sets up shop over here. That's a cryptic note.
Oh, our champion of Ash, welcome home. This pilgrim, with a debt in death, hardly deserves to behold this divine flame. And I never would have, had you not taken me into your service. I thank you dearly for this, and assure you of my leal service.
Gonna be honest, I don't know what that
As I
word
have
means.
said, I was once a sorcerer. Alas, the magic of Londor is a far cry from the wonders of Vinheim. But I can teach you what I know. Perhaps, more importantly, I believe that I can help tease out your true strength. We pilgrims of Londor are keenly aware that those branded by the dark sign possess something quite special. As I have said, I weep that Then shall we begin? Bearer of the dark sign, let your true strength shine.
When choosing the draw out strength option, we get to level up once, completely for free. A very useful feature. It seems a little too good to be true, honestly, but we will see how it proceeds.
Be safe, champion of Ash.
Yoel also sells some basic sorceries, and we'll check that out next time, but I felt that this video was already running a little bit long. And we still need to talk to Greyrat.
Oh, hello, and in one piece. Well, now it's time I do my part, huh?
I thought briefly about purchasing some leather armor, but it's really too heavy for us.
Heavens, she was already dead. Thank you. I'm not surprised, though. Almost a relief, really. You can keep the ring as, well, a little trinket of thanks, I suppose.
Goodbye. And stay safe. Oh, this place.
Well, it seems like he took the news well enough. For now, though, I think we've accomplished more than enough. This is also another curious note. It's an awful lot of appraisals. I'm quite impressed by the levitation magic, so I guess I'll rate it good. Join us next time when we continue exploring the Undead settlement. Good luck!